way into the blue. It's out there waiting, it could be waiting for you. You're only scared of the things that you can't see. The most beautiful things you only see.
What's the definition of Californian country as opposed to Nashville country or whatever?
Well, there's a lot of different definitions. I mean, California country has had a lot of different influences. I mean, around the Dust Bowl, a bunch of, the Okies came over to Central California and really kind of formed the early part of like the Bakersfield sound. They were these migrant, farmers came over and started some of the first really like hillbilly music in California. And then that kind of gave rise to what would later become Bakersfield with Buck Owens and Merle Haggard and that sort of thing. So yeah, in Central California, there's obviously a strong country music scene, and then really, around Los Angeles through the decades, especially like in the 70s, 60s, 70s, it became a big thing with like the Laurel Canyon sound and Graham Parsons and Linda Ronstadt and the Byrds and the Eagles, and so California country has a lot of different influences. But it's always had a strong, scene.
Is that what I would call country rock? That element, the Graham Parsons, Crosby, Stills, Nash, Young,
country rock, that kind of like, alt country sort of a thing. Like closer to Bakersfield, you might consider it more truer country with like Merle Haggard, and then kind of out of LA came a little more of a hybrid country, cosmic country, like is what like a lot of people term the Graham Parsons thing. So yeah, I mean, it's a different kind of a hybrid, I think, than what you might have heard here coming out of Nashville or out of Texas. But it's still a very strong scene in California. Country music in general has, gone through so many different phases and sounds over, the course of the 1900s, from, the old-timey stuff all the way up to the new, basically, which now we've kind of come back around to sort of more of a country rock. A lot of it sounds more like rock than country. So it depends on who you ask when it comes to what country music even sounds like. And really, a lot of my influence, I almost don't even call myself country music sometimes, because in the States at least, that gives people the impression that it's more like the kind of country music you hear on the radio these days, which is more of this rock heavy pop country, whereas my stuff is more influenced by like the 60s and 70s and the Linda Ronstadts and the Emmylou Harris and those kind of sounds.
The world fall away. It's all a mystery, an untold story, a blank page waiting for a line, a metronome just marking time. And now you stand right at the edge, where you're going, where you've been, and the only certainty is you. And I believe.
Let's talk a bit about the new album. So you've done some co-writes with Andrew Delaney. But do you write all the songs and he writes some of the lyrics, or how does the sort of division of labour go?
Yeah, in the co-writes with Andrew, he is a brilliant lyricist. So a lot of times with those, we would kind of spin the idea together and get a lot of the core things together, but he would write the majority of the lyrics, and then I would write the music to go with it. But then it just totally depends. And then like the first track on the album is a co-write with my producer, KP Hawthorne, where I wrote the lyrics and she wrote a little more of the music. So it always varies a little bit in different co-writing scenarios as to you kind of play on each other's strengths.
I was surprised to realise that Elephants, the song, was his composition, was Andrew's composition, because it's told from a female perspective.
I know.
So I immediately, on listening to it before I saw the credits, I thought, oh, well, you've written that lyric.
Yeah.
And it's a very powerful lyric.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the first songs I ever heard Andrew sing, and one of the reasons I became such a huge fan of his songwriting, because to be able to put himself in the shoes of women so beautifully as he does in that song, you know, and he just says, he's like, I listened to the women around me, and I was able to, you know, put it into a song after hearing stories my whole life from what women go through on a day-to-day basis.
Walk with a purpose through the parking lot. Keys in your knuckles 'cause you ain't got claws. Remembering when your daddy taught you that boys will be boys, gotta watch your back. Sitting there drinking at the bar alone. Sharks come circle, wanna take you home. You better not play coy, better not be mean. 'Cause boys will be boys and they are fragile things. And they got names for the ones who talk back and the ones who wear those clothes. They got names for the ones who say yes, the ones who say no.
Is there a topicality in your lyrics? And in
Oh no,
Andrew's lyrics?
absolutely, absolutely. I mean, these are turbulent times for sure, and I think, you know, this album ended up reflecting that, because it is, you know, between the Santa Ana winds and the wildfires and like the environmental disasters, and then the Me Too movement with women being represented in elephants, and then, you know, I wrote the song Desert Rose a few years ago before we were even talking about building a wall up for Mexico. Like, I just, you know, heard this story of this immigrant woman who had come across the border and had her baby in a gas station bathroom, and I wanted to write a song about it. And, you know, there's so many underlying issues to day-to-day life right now that, you know, I feel like as songwriters we do have somewhat of a responsibility to call attention to them and try to help people understand them maybe in a new way through a song.
But with looks that might kill, and even more charming still, a young man won her over at first sight. They danced so very close, he called her Desert Rose and held her ever closer through the night. He said, Espera mi amor, it won't be long before everything you dream is at your feet. You'll never find a love like mine. You'll always be safe with me.
No interviewer can escape asking this one.
Yeah.
Yodeling.
Of course.
Now, we think it comes from Switzerland. Is that the Swiss
Well,
yodel? Is there a different yodel?
Well, and essentially, you know, that is where it originated. You know, the in the Alpine region, the Swiss and the Germans and the Austrians, and it was kind of like this shepherding call across the mountains. But when those immigrants came over to the States, like in the mid-1800s, they brought that tradition with them. And
I guess that's where it had come from.
And so it definitely came from Europe, but then it became assimilated into cowboy culture. And it was really like in the maybe early 1900s, Jimmy Rogers was kind of one of the first people who he would see these singing, like traveling troops of singers that were incorporating yodeling, and he started putting it into his country music. And then from there, as he got more popular, it sort of exploded, and it became sort of synonymous with country music for the first half of the 1900s. Just about every country singer yodeled as part of their songwriting, and you know, and then around the mid-century, it sort of died off. I feel like rock and roll came in and yodeling went out, and but I'm doing my best
That's a great quote in itself. My work here is done.
There you go. That's all you need.
Rock and roll was in and yodeling was
Rock and roll
out.
killed the yodeling star. And I mean, I think it's just the country's taste started changing, and it just it wasn't as commonplace to hear country music, country singers yodeling anymore. So, and I just got the bug to learn how to do it when I was in college, and I've been incorporating it into my shows ever since, and it really goes over well. People don't see it coming, they don't expect it because people don't do it very often these days, and it's a really fun tradition to keep alive.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Brilliant. Question answered. Thank you so much for your time.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Of course. Well, thank you for coming by. I really appreciate it.